Hello, if you enjoy real stories told simply and honestly, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if this story meant something to you, hit like. It helps keep these kinds of stories going. I always read your comments, so feel free to share your thoughts below. My name's Naomi. I'm 36 and live in Boulder, in a 2-bedroom apartment that smells like coffee grounds and detergent. I've been working the night shift at a freight warehouse for almost 8 years. The hours never change, only the faces. Drivers who curse at traffic, clerks who misplace bills of lading, supervisors who promise raises that never happen. I coordinate incoming shipments, check manifests, argue with anyone who swears they already scanned it. By dawn, I'm half awake, half numb, drinking stale coffee from a plastic lid. Ryan, my husband, is 39. He installs security systems, cameras, alarms, the kind of things people buy when they start trusting no one. He used to tell me about jobs, houses, the strange things people hide in closets. Lately, he just says, "busy day," then scrolls through his phone until he falls asleep with the light still on. We don't fight exactly. We coexist, like neighbors who never had the energy to move apart. We have 2 cats, a shared car, and a silence that feels like background noise, steady, familiar, impossible to turn off. We met 10 years ago at a hardware store where I was buying duct tape, and he was fixing an alarm panel. He made a joke about how duct tape could fix marriages. I laughed. Maybe that was the last time it felt easy. After the wedding, we moved to Boulder for his job. I thought we'd save for a house. Instead, we saved for repairs, tires, dentist visits, and aging cat's medication. Everything practical, nothing alive. My parents live 2 states away. We talk every few months, mostly updates about work, weather, health. Ryan's mother, meanwhile, calls every week. She worries about him eating right, his stress, his poor posture. She says I work too much and that night shifts make wives lonely. I tell her I'm fine. It's easier than explaining that loneliness can exist even in daylight. One Thursday morning, after a long shift, I find Ryan sitting at the kitchen table, with his boots still on, scrolling his phone. The cats watch him like he's a stranger. He looks up and says, "Mom asked if you could come up for the weekend. I've got a job in Sacramento, so I can't." I pour coffee and ask, "She okay?" "She's fine, just wants company." "Ben can pick you up." "Ben?" I repeat. "Your cousin Ben?" He nods. "Yeah, he's working near Mendocino. Said he'd be passing through anyway." The last time I saw Ben was 5 years ago, at a backyard barbecue. He was quiet, smelled like gasoline, and barely looked anyone in the eye. He and Ryan used to be close, worked together until something went wrong. Money, maybe. Pride. No one ever said clearly. I remember the way Ryan's tone changed when Ben's name came up, like he was saying storm instead of person. Ryan shrugs, checking messages again. "It's just a ride." "Don't make it a big thing." "I didn't say I would," I answer, softer than I mean to. That night, after dinner, I pack a small bag. Jeans, a sweater, my charger. Ryan watches TV with the sound off. When I walk by, he says, "Thanks for doing this. She'll be glad to see you." I nod. We both know this trip isn't about his mother. It's about space. Distance that's easier to explain as a favor. When I lie down later, I stare at the ceiling and think about Ben's face. How I barely remember it, and how strange it feels to be driven for hours by someone who once shared a last name and a grudge with my husband. I close my eyes, but sleep doesn't come right away. The warehouse hum is still in my head, the echo of pallets rolling, and somewhere under it all, the question I never say out loud. When did we stop noticing what was missing? Ben shows up Saturday morning at 8 sharp, just like Ryan said. I hear the low rumble of his pickup before I see it, a faded blue truck with a dented fender and tools rattling in the back. When I step outside, he's leaning on the door, cigarette between 2 fingers, eyes hidden behind scratched sunglasses. "Naomi," he says, voice calm but rough, like he hasn't used it much lately. "Ben," I answer, and that's our greeting. He grabs my bag before I can stop him, tosses it into the passenger seat. The truck smells of gasoline, oil, and something faintly metallic. I climb in, buckle up, and for a few seconds, we just sit there while the engine idles. "You ever been to Mendocino?" he asks finally. "No, I've seen pictures," I say. "It's quieter than the pictures, less pretty, more salt." He drives like someone who doesn't hurry but always arrives on time. The radio works only half the time. When it does, it plays old rock and commercials for boat engines. I ask if he still fishes. "Sometimes," he says, "when the weather's right and the work's slow." "You go alone?" He glances at me briefly. "Mostly. Out there, nobody asks how you're doing. That's the point we fall into silence. Not awkward, just space that doesn't need filling." Out the window, Colorado flattens into long roads and yellow grass. After a while, he offers me a bottle of water from the glove compartment. His hands are cracked and stained, nails short, a thin scar across one knuckle. He smells faintly of smoke and metal, a scent that feels familiar in a strange way. By the time we reach the coast, the air turns damp and the sky looks heavier. We stop once at a diner near the highway for coffee. The waitress knows him by name, calls him Benny. He nods back, polite, distant. I catch the way she looks at him, not with affection, but with curiosity, like he's the kind of man who doesn't say more than he has to. When we get back on the road, I ask, "You and Ryan ever talk anymore?" He exhales through his nose, almost a laugh. "Not really." "Because of the shop thing?" He doesn't answer right away. We both made bad calls. He walked away, I didn't. That's all. We drive the next hour with the windows cracked open. The sea starts to appear in flashes. Gray water, old docks, a pelican flying low. When we finally pull into the driveway of Ryan's mother's house, she's already on the porch, waving like we're soldiers returning home. She hugs me first, too tight, smells like vanilla lotion and laundry powder. Then she hugs Ben, shorter, almost formal. "You look thin," she says. He smiles faintly. "Same as always." Inside, the house is bright but cluttered. Pictures of Ryan as a kid, a cross above the TV, a bowl of wrapped candy that's probably older than me. She starts talking about dinner before we've even taken off our jackets, listing dishes, asking about traffic. I answer politely, nod where needed. "Ryan says he'll be here tomorrow night," she adds, spooning sugar into my coffee, though I didn't ask for it. "Yeah," I say. "He mentioned." She touches my arm. "You two work too much. Life's not supposed to be all routine, honey." I smile, but it doesn't reach my eyes. That evening the house fills up. Relatives, noise, old stories about who used to drink too much and who still does. The men talk about trucks and tools, the women about grandkids. Ryan calls near the end, voice fuzzy from a bar. He says a quick toast for family and hangs up before anyone can answer. Ben, sitting across the table, watches me when it happens. His face doesn't move, but his jaw tightens just enough to notice. Later, when everyone drifts off, I stay behind to help clean up. Ben rinses plates beside me, sleeves rolled up, movement steady. At one point, his hand brushes my wrist, not deliberate, but it lingers half a second longer than it should. I keep drying, pretending it didn't happen, but I feel my pulse quicken. He sets down a glass and says quietly, "You okay?" "Yeah," I say, though it sounds unconvincing even to me. Outside, someone lights a cigarette, and the smoke drifts through the open window. The sound of the ocean is faint in the distance, like something calling from far away. Ben glances toward it, then back at me. Neither of us says anything else. When I go to bed that night, the sheets smell of detergent and dust. Through the wall, I hear laughter from the porch. His mother, maybe a cousin, maybe Ben. I lie there with my eyes open, thinking about the way his hand felt, warm, rough, certain, and wonder why, after all these years, something as small as that could feel like the first true thing in a long time. The next evening starts with the smell of grilled meat and beer. Ryan's family gathers in the backyard, everyone talking over each other, voices bouncing between laughter and small complaints. The table is covered with potato salad, ribs, and too many paper plates. Someone turns on the radio, and old country music fills the space. It's familiar in that way family noise can be. Chaotic, yet safe for everyone but the stranger sitting inside it. I help in the kitchen while his mother directs traffic, telling me where the platters go, who likes extra sauce, which cousin is now gluten-free. "Ryan always loved my ribs," she says, smiling without looking at me. "You should make him some once in a while." I just nod. The truth is, Ryan doesn't eat much at home anymore. Mostly takeout, cold pizza, or nothing at all. When we finally sit down, Ben ends up across from me, near the grill. He's wearing a clean shirt, but his hands still carry the marks of work. During dinner, he doesn't say much. He listens, eats slowly, drinks water while everyone else downs beer. I catch him watching me a few times, not with interest, more like recognition. Like he sees the version of me that doesn't talk. Halfway through, Ryan calls. His mother puts him on speaker, proud to show that he remembered. The line crackles with bar noise and voices in the background. "Hey everyone," he shouts. "To family, okay?" "To us." People cheer. I say nothing. He hangs up before anyone replies. Someone jokes, "He's always the life of the party." Another voice adds, "Too bad his wife's not." It's meant to be funny. No one laughs too hard. Ben glances up, expression flat. Then he says, quietly, but clear enough to cut through the chatter, "People who need a crowd usually aren't happy at home." A silence follows, short but sharp. I stare at my plate. Then I say, "I stopped asking how he feels at home a long time ago." No one knows where to go from that. His mother clears her throat and starts talking about her garden, pretending nothing happened. After dinner, most of them move to the porch, arguing about football. I stay inside, stacking plates. Ben joins without a word, drying dishes as I hand them over. The window above the sink shows a thin strip of moonlight on the yard. He says, after a while, "You don't like crowds either, huh?" "I don't know what to say to people anymore," I answer. Everything I think sounds heavier than it should. He nods slowly. "You don't have to fill space for them." I glance at him. "And what do you do instead?" "Fix what's broken." "Or try to." He passes me a clean glass, and for a second our fingers touch. It's nothing dramatic, just contact, but it stops me mid-motion. The warmth of his hand stays. I finish drying, place the glass upside down, and pretend to focus on the next plate. Outside, laughter bursts again. Ryan's mother, someone telling a joke. Ben turns off the tap. "You want air?" he asks. We step outside to the back porch. The night feels cooler. The ocean smells sharper. The others are down by the fire pit, faces orange in the light. From here, they look like strangers acting out someone else's version of comfort. Ben leans on the railing, lighting a cigarette. The flame flickers on his face, makes him look older for a moment. "I shouldn't have said that back there," he murmurs. "You were just honest." Honesty doesn't always do good things. He exhales smoke into the dark, watching it drift. I don't answer. After a minute, he says, "Ryan used to be different. You know that, right?" I remember. He wanted to build things, not just install them. Said he'd start his own company. What happened? He looks at me. Money, time, maybe both. The porch light hums. I fold my arms, feeling the chill settle into my sleeves. Ben crushes the cigarette in the ashtray and says quietly, "He doesn't see you anymore." I want to deny it, to say something measured, but I can't find words. Instead, I ask, "And what do you see?" He hesitates. "Someone who's still there, even when nobody's looking." It shouldn't matter, but it lands somewhere deep. We stay out there until the voices fade and the house starts to dim. Before going in, I thank him for helping with the dishes. He just nods and says, "See you in the morning. I'll take you down to the docks." When I lie in bed later, I hear the faint sound of a truck door closing outside. Probably Ben heading out for a smoke. I don't move to the window. I just keep my eyes open until sleep finally wins. And for the first time in months, my dreams aren't about work. They're about salt air and an engine that won't start. The next morning, fog rolls in from the water like it's been waiting for us. The house is quiet. Most of the family is still asleep. I find a note on the counter in Ben's rough handwriting, heading to the port. "If you want to see the boat, bring coffee." I pour 2 cups into travel mugs and walk down the narrow path that leads toward the harbor. The air smells like diesel, salt, and wet wood. I spot his truck by the dock before I see him. He's bent over an engine, sleeves rolled up, hands deep in grease. When he looks up, his face is already smudged, but he smiles slightly when he sees the coffee. "You read instructions well," he says. "I try to." He takes the mug. "Thanks, haven't had decent coffee since Tuesday." The boat is smaller than I expected, paint chipped, name half faded. It looks like something that's lived too many storms. "You still use this thing?" I ask. "Try to," he says, patting the railing. "Used to be our project." Me and Ryan thought we'd take it down the coast one summer. Never happened. "Why not?" he shrugs. "Work, bills, the usual." We sit on the edge of the dock, feet hanging above the water. Gulls scream somewhere overhead. He talks about engines, about how salt ruins everything eventually if you let it sit too long. I listen, watching the way his hands move when he explains things. Confident, patient. Then he says, almost to himself, "You ever feel like your life just got smaller without you noticing?" "Every day," I reply. He looks at me, then really looks. "Ryan used to laugh at everything," he says. "He's still like that?" "Not really." "He stopped before you did then." I take a slow sip of coffee. I think we both stopped around the same time. Just didn't say it out loud. He nods, sets his mug down. "You're not like her, you know." "Who?" "Ryan's mom. Always talking, never listening." "You actually wait before you answer." "That's because I don't always have an answer." better than pretending. A few minutes later, he climbs into the boat, checking wires, pulling on cables. The engine doesn't start. It makes a hollow click. He tries again. Nothing. He leans back, laughing under his breath. Figures. Want help? I ask. Hold this, he says, handing me a wrench. Our fingers touch for a moment. It shouldn't mean anything, but it does. He works quietly, focused, but there's something heavy in the air now, something unspoken but close. I hand him tools and he keeps explaining what he's doing, half to himself, half to me. At some point he stops, wipes his hands on a rag, and sits beside me on the narrow bench inside the boat. Some things don't start no matter how much you fix, he says. Then why keep trying? He looks out at the water, because it used to mean something. The morning drifts by like that, words that aren't quite about boats. Eventually, the engine gives a low rumble, sputters, then dies again. Ben laughs softly. Good enough for today? He sits back, his shoulder brushing mine. We're close enough to feel the heat of the other person, but not close enough to call it anything. When he turns his head, our faces are a breath apart. He hesitates, like he's waiting for me to move. I don't. The kiss is quick, unsure, tasting faintly of salt and coffee. My first instinct is to pull back, but I don't. For a second, the whole world feels suspended. Not romantic, not tragic, just real. He pulls away first, eyes steady. Sorry, he says. Don't be, I answer. It just happened. He nods once. Yeah. We sit there quietly after that, the kind of quiet that actually matters this time. When I finally stand up, my knees ache, and the sun has burned through most of the fog. He starts packing his tools. I'll drop you back after I clean up. Okay. As we drive back to the house, the radio hums something low and old. Neither of us speaks. The moment sits between us, heavy but not painful. When we pull into the driveway, he stops the truck, but keeps his hands on the wheel. You don't owe me an explanation, he says. I wasn't planning on giving one. He smiles faintly, not smug, just tired. Good. Inside, the house smells like lunch and disinfectant. His mother greets me from the kitchen. You were out early. Ben show you that pile of rust he calls a boat? Yeah, I say. He's fixing it. She laughs. That thing's beyond fixing. Just like some people, I smile politely, but her words hang in my head longer than they should. Upstairs, I sit on the edge of the bed and stare at my phone. There's a text from Ryan. Will call later. Miss you. I read it twice, then put the phone face down. Outside, I can hear Ben's truck start again, then fade toward the port. That evening, the sound of Ryan's truck pulling into the driveway feels louder than it should. I'm in the kitchen helping his mother peel potatoes when the headlights sweep across the window. She straightens, smiling like something important just arrived. There's my boy, she says, and goes to the door. Ryan steps inside, carrying the smell of road and cheap motel coffee. He hugs his mother first, then me. The hug is brief but deliberate, arms tight enough to prove a point, not to share warmth. Missed you, he says near my ear. His voice is calm, but his jaw is set. Ben walks in from the yard, wiping his hands on a rag. Ryan notices him right away. Didn't think you'd actually show up, Ryan says. Ben shrugs. You asked Mom to have Naomi visit. I figured you'd want her to get here somehow. Ryan smirks. Guess you're good for something after all. It's supposed to sound playful, but it doesn't. The tension is instant, quiet, sharp, like the air before a storm. His mother fills it with noise, telling them both to sit, to eat, to be civil. They do, mostly. Dinner becomes a performance, clinking silverware, small talk about weather, work, car trouble. Halfway through, Ryan turns to Ben. Still fixing junk for fishermen? Ben doesn't look up. Still installing cameras for people who don't trust anyone? Ryan chuckles. Pays better than fishing. Money's not everything, Ben says softly. Ryan leans back, wipes his mouth. That what you tell yourself every time the rent's late? His mother hisses. Enough, both of you. No one speaks for a while after that. I pretend to be busy with my plate, but Ryan's eyes keep landing on me, like he's searching for something he already suspects. Later, when everyone's gone to bed, he comes into the room without knocking. I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through my phone, just to have somewhere to look. He stands in the doorway, watching me. Did you have fun? With your family? I ask, keeping my tone even. With Ben. My fingers tighten on the phone. He gave me a ride. That's all. He takes a step closer. You two talk a lot. Not really. Good. He says it like a verdict. He closes the door and sits beside me. The mattress dips under his weight. For a second, it's quiet, too quiet, and then his hand is on my thigh, firm, claiming. His touch isn't gentle, it's deliberate, possessive, as if he's trying to remind both of us what belongs to him. Ryan, don't, he interrupts. His breath smells like beer. I let him continue because stopping him would turn it into something worse, an argument, a scene. The whole time I stare at the ceiling, counting slow breaths, thinking about the boat that didn't start, about salt on my lips, about a version of myself that felt briefly alive that morning. When it's over, he rolls away and falls asleep almost instantly, like he's finished a task. I stay awake, eyes open to the dark. Outside, I hear a truck door close and an engine start somewhere down the road. Probably Ben leaving again. The sound fades fast, swallowed by the wind. I slip out of bed and walk to the window. The moonlight catches the outline of the empty driveway. My reflection looks strange, older maybe, or just more certain. I whisper to no one. It's not supposed to feel like this. Down the hall, his mother's door creaks. I step back before she can see the light under ours. The air in the room feels heavy, like there's no oxygen left. When I finally lie back down, Ryan shifts in his sleep and reaches for me instinctively, pulling me closer. His hand rests on my hip. I stare into the dark, unmoving, until dawn starts to show through the curtains. By the time he wakes, I've already showered and dressed. I tell him breakfast is ready downstairs. He nods, half asleep, not looking at me. At the table, his mother chatters about errands, about a friend's surgery, about everything except what hangs in the air. Ben doesn't show up for breakfast. No one mentions him. When Ryan leaves later that morning to meet an old friend in town, I step outside and breathe in the cold air. The driveway is empty, the road quiet. Somewhere beyond the hill is the harbor, and a man trying to fix an engine that doesn't want to run. I stand there for a long minute, unsure if I want to see him or forget him completely. In the end, I just turn toward the shed and start walking. By the time the sun clears the fog the next morning, Ryan is already gone. His mother says he left early for a job in Fort Bragg. Something about checking a client's cameras before noon. She doesn't look at me when she says it, and I don't ask questions. The house feels lighter without him in it. I finish my coffee, rinse the mug, and step outside. The air smells like salt and pine. Down the dirt path, I spot Ben near the shed, bent over the same outboard motor he's been fighting with since yesterday. His jacket is thrown over a chair, sweat darkening the back of his t-shirt. He looks up when I reach him. Didn't expect you to be up this early. I couldn't sleep. He nods toward the engine. Me neither. Thought I'd give this another try before the weather turns. The motor sits open, wires hanging like veins. I ask, does it even work anymore? He smiles a little. Sometimes. When it feels like it, I lean against the wall, watching him. He works quietly, focused, the way people do when their hands know the truth better than their mouths. A few minutes pass before he speaks again. You and Ryan doing okay? Define okay. He wipes his hands on a rag. He was tense last night. He's been tense for years. Ben studies me for a moment, then says, You don't have to explain anything. I'm not. He crouches again, adjusts a screw and the engine coughs once, then dies. He laughs under his breath. Guess it's not our day. The silence that follows feels different this time, closer, thicker. I step forward, kneel beside him, and hold the wrench he passes me. Our shoulders touch. The smell of metal and oil fills the space between us. He keeps talking about spark plugs and compression, but neither of us is really listening. At some point, he stops. His hand rests over mine on the wrench, and when I look up, his face is inches away. There's no build-up, no hesitation this time. When he kisses me, it's steady, certain, and everything else just falls away. We move back against the workbench, the air filled with the sharp scent of gasoline and sea air. It isn't desperate, and it isn't gentle. It's something honest that we've both been avoiding. For a long time, there's no sound but our breathing and the soft creak of wood. When it's over, we stay close, neither reaching for words. He sits down first, pulling the rag over his face, then letting it fall. We shouldn't have, he says, voice low. I know. But I don't regret it. I shake my head. Neither do I. He looks at me, eyes tired but open. You ever think about just leaving? Every day, I say. But then I don't. Why? Because leaving means you have to explain why you stayed so long. He nods slowly, as if that makes too much sense. Outside, gulls cry over the water. The wind picks up, carrying the faint smell of rain. After a while, I stand, brush off my jeans. What happens now? He looks toward the boat. I was going to take her out today. Maybe just for an hour. Forecast says this might be the last calm stretch for a while. Want help? He smiles faintly. You already did. We sit for a few more minutes, watching the clouds move in from the west. When I finally walk back toward the house, my legs feel unsteady, not from guilt, but from something that feels like the edge of freedom. Inside, Ryan's mother is folding laundry at the table. She looks up. You were with Ben again? Yeah, he's fixing the motor. She presses her lips together. He always was stubborn. Never knew when to stop, I nod. Maybe that's not the worst thing. She gives me a curious look, but doesn't press. I take my coffee to the porch and sit there, watching the road Ryan took earlier. I tell myself I'll pack when he gets back, that maybe I'll go stay with my sister for a while. But even as I think it, I know I won't. Not yet. Hours pass. The sound of the sea grows louder as the wind shifts. Somewhere far down the hill, I hear Ben's engine start. Just once, a clean, solid hum. Then it fades toward the horizon. When Ryan returns that evening, he looks tired, distracted. He says the client kept him late. I nod, pretending to believe it. That night, while he showers, I sit at the window and look out toward the dark coast. I can't see the water from here, but I can picture it, the old boat, the fading light, and the man trying to make something broken run again, just because he still believes it might. A week passes before life pretends to go back to normal. The warehouse hums, Ryan's alarm company sends him out on new installs, and the days fall into their usual rhythm. Two people circling each other, exchanging information instead of feelings. Only this time, everything around me feels thinner, like the air before a storm that never comes. It's Thursday night when the news appears. Ryan is sitting on the couch, half watching a game, scrolling his phone. I'm washing dishes when he says, flatly, "Huh." I turn off the water. What? He doesn't look up. Boat went down off Mendocino, says one man missing. The room seems to tilt a little. What boat? He shrugs. Didn't say. Probably some local. Coast Guard's looking. Then he sets the phone down like it's nothing and adds, "Guess some people make their own trouble." I wait for him to say more, but he doesn't. He leans back, stretches, yawns, as if the story belongs to someone far away. I can't move for a second. My hands are still wet, the faucet's still running. Finally, I shut it off and say, "I'm making tea?" "Sure," he says, already scrolling again. In the kitchen, I set the kettle on the burner. The click of the stove feels louder than usual. The sound of water heating builds slowly, steady, mechanical. I stand there staring at the metal lid, waiting for it to whistle. The article flashes in my mind before I even read it. I see the boat, the chipped paint, the name half gone, the wrench still lying on the bench where I left it. I think of Ben's hands, rough and certain, of the way he smiled when the engine finally caught that morning. The kettle starts to shake. Steam gathers around my face. Ryan's voice drifts in from the other room, low and ordinary. "Don't forget we're supposed to call my mom Sunday. She's asking about you. I can't answer." The whistle starts, a high, piercing note that fills the kitchen. For a moment, I think it might drown everything out. The memory, the guilt, the weight of knowing what probably happened out there. But it doesn't. The sound ends when I switch off the burner, and the quiet that follows feels heavier than before. I pour the water over the tea bag, watch the color spread. My hands shake just once, then steady. The cat brushes against my leg, and I realize I haven't breathed properly in a minute. Ryan walks in, hair damp from a shower, clean t-shirt, phone in hand. "You okay?" he asks casually. "I'm fine." My voice is flat, calm, almost convincing. He nods. "Good." "You've been quiet lately." "I'm tired." He kisses the top of my head the way he always does, as if that single motion resets everything. "Try to sleep early." "You've been working too hard." When he leaves the room, I look at the kettle again. The metal is still warm, fogged from steam. I touch it lightly and think about the ocean, how cold it must have been that morning, how fast the water swallows sound. Later, lying in bed, I listen to Ryan breathe beside me, steady and deep. My phone screen glows on the nightstand. I open a browser and type Mendocino boat accident, scrolling through short updates that all say the same thing. One missing. Search to continue tomorrow. No name released. I set the phone down, face up this time, watching the light fade as the screen locks. In the dark, I think about Ben's last words. Maybe this is the last calm stretch for a while. He was right. Nothing feels calm now, just unfinished. The house creaks as the wind shifts outside. The cats move at the foot of the bed. I close my eyes, not to sleep, but because I can't bear to keep them open anymore. The next morning, I'll wake before dawn, feed the cats, drive to the warehouse, sign the same papers, count the same crates. But for now I stay still, staring at the ceiling, listening to the world return to its quiet. No shouting, no breaking, no noise. Just the same old silence that used to mean peace and now feels like loss.